Soup. Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today. With me have some more RPG horror stories. Speaking of RPG horror stories but kind of stupid ideas, has anybody ever made like perverted subclasses for D&D or like any game? By perverted, I don't mean like specific like Order of the Horny or Patron of the Horny, you know, and I'm not trying to make it like so everybody's patron is a succubus, but like let's say for example, Druid, a Circle of the Jerkle or something. Sorry, my brain been thinking about stupid puns for like the entire day and just had to let it out. Anyway, enough of Circle of the Jerkle, let's talk about some RPG horror stories. Maybe this one's gonna be about some weird druidic circles, you know, of the weird kinky variety. Manipulation check, fail. I've been a fairly long time player with this purely online D&D group. There was one player who we'll call Steve. Steve plays decently, but most of the character ideas were typically from other media. He claimed there weren't, but Seven Family Names the Fourth, a gunslinger haunted by a tragic family event, was totally original. So was a sorcerer in brown coat that burned his family alive. Regardless, we played on and eventually, I can't recall how exactly, but he'd been particularly annoying to play with and I was obstructing progress more than helping it. I told the DM, "Do you want me to talk about it?" Since I usually was the conflict resolution guy. DM said sure, but on a condition. That will come up later. I messaged Steve and after some niceties, I explained we weren't particularly happy with his playing today. Steve responded apologetically. He was particularly fond of playing with me. "You're among the best players I've played with." I'll take the ego stroke, and he asked the question, "Do you have any feedback for me to do better next session or future sessions?" It was pretty typical stuff, and he engaged with it in a moment too. Responded well and seemed appreciative of the feedback. It became a pretty pleasant conversation overall. It was late in the evening, so we said goodnight and we chat another time. The following morning, DM is texting me that Steve had messaged him. He claimed I was verbally abusing him and bullying him in conversation, and so on and so forth. It's true that the conversation started a bit blunt and harsh, but abusive? There could be two stories to this. Either Steve, I don't know why he uses Steve. When I think of Steve, I think of the weird lich character that I made for a one-shot when I was trying to get my friends used to D&D. I made just a quick helper character. He's just Steve the Lich, and he just doesn't really do anything. He just kind of hangs out and just talks like this the whole time. And maybe sometimes makes snarky remarks, but that's about it. But anyway, it's gonna ruin the whole image for Steve. I'm thinking of Steve the Lich. Maybe I'll voice it like this. But either way, the two things going on here. Either one, maybe your contribution towards the feedback was a little bit too blunt and a little bit too rude. That could always be a possibility. Some people, like when they give feedback and they really don't hold back. You know, it's almost like bludgeon you with feedback. I've experienced that before. Or two, you gave a sensible feedback that was done well, and Steve is just taking it a little bit too personally, or just crying to the DM about it, being like, "I'm gonna try to get this dude in trouble." I don't know. Let's find out. The DM screen shared a conversation he had with Steve over text. We bust out laughing. What Steve didn't know is that the DM requested a screenshot on my end of the feedback conversation the night before, just so we'd have clarity on what was given feedback. That was the condition he'd given. Steve had edited every Discord message to take a victim tone of, "Please not tonight, I'm doing very poorly mentally." The DM asked why all his messages said edited at the end. Steve alleged he was making typos because he was so distraught by everything. At my recommendation, the DM asked Steve to take a screenshot of the edited timestamp. He didn't know that was a thing, we didn't either. It is. Hover over that part and you will see when it was last edited, not the history. To summarize the end, we confronted Steve with the conversation screenshots that actually happened the night before. He didn't have much to say, as a result, was kicked. From both the game and some projects too, if I remember correctly. This remains genuinely one of the funniest bits of drama I've ever experienced. This was several years ago. We've since spoken and metaphorically shook hands. Never asked or understood the goal behind this, honestly. Mostly thankful for that DM approached me first about it, since they know I wouldn't do this, and personally take mental health seriously. Don't let edited messages fool you, kids. You know, funny enough, I actually know some people that specifically did that in high school. That will create so much unnecessary drama by editing messages. Like, you learning Photoshop, not great by the way, but learning Photoshop and create fake drama, fake messages just to start up some stuff. It's not cool, y'all. It's really not cool. But good thing on the DM for catching that, because, well, I mean, catching people in the act of doing something scummy and shady is kind of funny, but still, it's like karmic justice, you know? I don't say I'm take pleasure in it, but if somebody is being a complete scumbag, I might enjoy it a little bit. Either way, good thing you removed a problem player when you did. Let's get to the next story for today. Player deliberately designed a character to break the group. Let me start by saying I firmly believe it's the player's responsibility to create characters who are able to function in a group and come up with in-character reasons to not screw over or murder other characters, even if they are of different alignment, worldview, fictional species, oppressed character classes, to prevent inter-player conflict. It's totally fine if the goal is to have an undercover character, secretly evil character in a group of good characters, or mage hunter in a group of spellcasters, or D&D paladin who was taught tieflings are all fiend-tainted monsters, etc., whose real identity is unknown to the other characters. If the player and GM have already planned an arc of character growth where a said character will evolve and gain redemption through friendship, or learn that not all members of Group X are wicked, that can lead to very satisfying roleplaying. But a player deliberately creating a character with a clear intention to hamstring or harass other characters to break the group? No. When making a character, always pick one that plays well with the party. They can be good or evil, conniving, greedy, whatever. They can be a kleptomaniac for all you care, as long as they play well with the party. Some side shenanigans and character like friction, I think it's fine as long as characters are perfectly cool with it. Like if you want to have a rivalry with a different character and stuff, or like you want to have like a moment where you see, you know, your characters don't see eye to eye, or banter a lot and stuff like that, or, you know, rib each other on occasion, like me and Micah do. Whenever we're playing our characters as Morrow and Micah, we constantly rib on each other all the time. But that's because that's our dynamic as players and characters, and it just works really well. But if you make it a character that specifically works against the party every time, that's not a good character. Anyway, let's continue. I've actually seen that thing happen back in late 1990s in a GURPS fantasy campaign played via online text chat room. In the days prior to video and voice call software, we're all in our 20s, we all know each other from Fantasy Club. The group happened to be comprised almost entirely of different kind of magic users. Sorcerer like spellcaster, a healer herbalist, a mystic swordsman, all heavily relying on magic. It was total coincidence as we players, the majority of whom were female including me, had created our characters independently from each other. The male GM had allowed us a lot of freedom to use the various GURPS rulebooks, with only a requirement that the character had to fit in a medieval-ish fantasy setting, had to have reason to travel from A to B through the wilderness. Only exception from the magic user front was my character, a ghoul from Lovecraft's Dreamland stories. Note, Lovecraft's ghouls are humanoid species, alive, not dead, who wore a magical illusion amulet to appear as middle-aged balding human guy, so he wouldn't get lynched while living among humans, and pretended to be a traveling tanner and furrier to explain away his slightly carry-on smell he had despite him using strong-smelling herbs. He actually did have those craftsman skills, mind you. But our group was chill with having weird character backgrounds. That wasn't the problem. The other players knew my character wasn't a human, but were curious about him, and the ghoul was such an amiable and amusing guy. When the other travelers eventually found out he carried a preserved human brain in his backpack because while he could eat normal food, he preferred carrion and needed to snack on sentient creature's brain once in a month, and so his real face and that he had long digging claws like he's a giant ground sloth, everyone just shrugged and went, "So Geralt is a hairless hyena-faced creature on the old gods, who can dig tunnels in record time and who occasionally eats the brains of hanged criminals. Yeah, I don't care, he's a nice guy. Let's help him maintain his cover identity when he meet people." That's actually kind of funny. Yeah, our party member's a monster, but it's okay, he's nice, he's a cool guy. He got me lunch the other day. Let's continue. Now the problem started when, some sessions in, another player from the extended friend group wanted to join the already full group. I didn't personally know her, but because she was an acquaintance of the GM, he allowed it. But right from the first session which introduced her character, we knew it was going to be problematic. Her character was a weird, wayfish, white-haired, ghostly, pale, skinny, fae-like girl with pearly white eyes and total amnesia, clad in thin white gown, whom we found lying around on a plinth in a creepy tower in the middle of a wasteland, with a weird amulet around her neck she couldn't take off. Amnesiac fae goth girl was utterly unable to care for herself, but for some plot reasons we were forced to take her with us, because prophecy or whatever, and the swordsman was tasked to protect her. Worse, amnesiac fae goth girl constantly emitted an anti-magic zone around herself with a radius of several meters, not merely as a penalty to all magic casting, nope, a 100% no magic zone where spells, magic items like swords and amulets, and supernatural powers didn't work. I'm sure you can spot the problem here. Why did the GM allow this? For GURPS, do they use GM, DM, ST? What other acronyms are there, you know? I guess maybe like in Fallout games, you probably use Overseer. What other acronyms are there for the person running the game with other TTRPGs? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to see what kind of other nomenclature people use out there. Anyway, let's get to it. For some unfathomable reason, the GM had allowed this, assuming he had seen the character sheet prior to introducing the character. That means we could not leave her behind, despite several of us, me included, secretly telling the DM in private messages that we saw no logical in-character reason to drag this creature with us. I hope there's a proper response from the GM about this, because you have a situation where suddenly your party that is doing great by themselves, that is doing fantastic, is forced to care for a character that literally negates their abilities. She has an anti-magic field. This random wispy goth girl has anti-magic field for a party full of casters, literally built to just screw over everybody else's ability to cast spells in a party full of spellcasters. Why would the party want to have that? Why would the party want to include that? Maybe you could have left that out, GM. Maybe it could be like, hey, that's not gonna work. That's overpowered. That's not okay. I don't know what the limit of GURPS is when it comes to like, I don't know, like being overpowered or building like really powerful characters. But this feels like it would screw over everybody else. And I don't know why the GM is allowing this. And Problem Player did everything to make life difficult for our characters, which quickly resulted in most of the playing time revolving around her character and our attempts to work around her stupid anti-magic aura. Yet the GM refused to ask her to make a new character or kick her from the group because he desperately wanted to not exclude anyone. It ended with us, the original group, telling GM we would be leaving the campaign as it had become really unplayable, annoying, and no longer fun. Shame, we really liked our characters. I wasn't even angry at the GM, he was simply too gentle for his own good. Then a short while later, I got a PM from one of the other players who told me she had heard through the grapevine the player of Amnesiac Anti-Magic Fay-Girl had proudly remarked that she had created the character specifically to break the group. WTF. So you have a player that specifically goes into the game to ruin somebody else's fun. Yeah, that's what you consider an a-hole. It's a good lesson for the DM to learn to look out for people that will literally go in there just to ruin someone's fun. Imagine spending your whole time building a character just to ruin someone's fun, and the GM doesn't even see it. How can you, I mean, I get it, you don't want to kick somebody out, but clearly you can't be just blind to the fact that the player character is literally made to ruin other people's fun. The party is built around magic ability, and you have somebody coming in there to destroy the ability to cast spells because they have this anti-magic field around them 24/7 for miles. Yeah, that doesn't sound somebody that you would want to have in the game. In fact, you probably want to even question as a GM the purpose for it. I guess this is another lesson to learn here in particular, is that not all players that join a game are coming in here to have fun and just to play. We had so many stories. There have been a few far in between, but we did have already a good collection of them, of people joining a game just to be some sort of, I don't know what's a good word to use, I don't want to curse to demonetize the video, rapscallion, some monkey wrench in the works of the whole thing. Somebody coming in specifically to screw other people's fun over and ruin the game for them, just to be somebody that takes away the fun from everybody else. We already had so many stories about them so far. As DM and as players, I mean players definitely, if you notice that, want to point that out, but as a DM, GM, storyteller, whatever you are, if you have a player that's coming in specifically to try to be like a monkey wrench in this machine of game that you're playing, you got to look out for these sort of people, because sometimes you're gonna have people that connivingly try to sneak in saying, oh, I just want to join in to have fun and to play the game for the very first time, but they build a character specifically that doesn't work well with the party. The entire party is full of casters. One person destroys the ability for them to spell cast and stuff. Or let's say, I don't know, there was a story, maybe I didn't cover, but somebody covered before, but somebody played as a druid, and all they did was just sit in the corner, be a pacifist, wouldn't heal, wouldn't do anything with spells. They would just cast their little familiar and play with a familiar in the corner, and basically would not even like fight anything. If party wanted to progress into option A, they would do something to ruin that path, like maybe, I don't know, break ropes or cut a bridge open and stuff, because they thought it was too dangerous to walk across the bridge, so gotta dismantle the bridge and stuff like that. It just, if you have somebody coming in here just to ruin the fun for everybody else, you gotta look out for that and point it out and call it out, and if it's not gonna change, remove the problem player, because some people are not coming in with like inherently like unknown problems, just kind of comes out through the game. Some people gotta be conniving, and their fun is to ruin other people's fun. You don't want to have that kind of people with you, because if they're just coming in just to ruin other people's fun, it's not gonna be fun for anybody else, especially the players. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.